How are you doing, sir?
How are you?
Fine. So I guess 2 days in on the field, what is your general impressions of what you guys have been able to get accomplished so far?
Yeah, so it's number one. It's always good getting back on the field and being with the players and doing things we love doing. And I think the number one, the energy's been great. We've had a lot of guys that the whole mix, the guys that have been here, the guys that have come in from other schools, and then the freshmen. I think there's a really good urgency for guys to do their job right, to finish on every play. I think it's, and one of the main reasons, I think we've got the right guys here, the mentality, guys that look, that, again, it's two practices, self-starters, and then competition. There's a lot of competition throughout, and I think that kind of brings out the best in everybody. So I still got a long way to go, but the first 2 days, I think that's been the first thing that stood out.
A lot of freshman pass catchers coming in this year. What have you seen from your freshman receivers so far?
Yeah, same thing. Energy. I think these guys are, they understand that they have, potential opportunity to play early, but they also, for young guys, at least early, they understand that it's going to take a lot of work. They're very conscientious. They study hard. They're asking questions. I think the learning curve, there's going to be a learning curve, especially when you get into the SEC. So it's just a matter of who can not just the mental part of it, but learn the fastest and understand how defensive backs are going to play you and have to get off the line of scrimmage in bump and run situations. So, but they can run. They have good quickness. They've shown that, and the ability to catch the ball, and all that stuff will hopefully continue to on the what we've seen the first couple days.
Got a few changes on the offensive line, lost a center most notably. What have you seen from that group and just some of the combinations through a couple practices?
Yeah, I think, again, the guys that we brought in, Boaz and RJ, I think are guys that are very conscientious. I think they, same thing, they're working hard to put their best foot forward in, just in all aspects of their game. That center, obviously, other than the quarterback, he's touching the ball every play, and he's got to be the quarterback, so to speak, of the guys up front. So the communication's got to be at a premium, and I think both guys do a really good job with that. I think that, everybody it's crazy the amount of, at least from my recollection, the amount of new guys that you have compared to last year. And I remember the guys, when I got here last year, the coach saying the same thing. There's a lot of new guys, so you have to be really good at communicating, so everyone's on the same page get everybody on the same page as quick as you can. And I think both those guys have done that. And we got other guys in the fold as well too. So
With Lenoris, what are some of the things you're hoping that he's able to get accomplished this spring? Is there sort of a checklist of things, or is it just kind of business as usual with him?
Well, I think number one, our goal is to pick up where we left off at the end of the year, not at the start of the year, and just we looked at some things in the off season that mentally and physically, looking at defenses and getting your eyes in the right place a little bit quicker, and making sound decisions quicker, and things like that. And then also now, because of the newness of the young receivers and the guys up front, whether or not they're rising freshmen or underclassmen, or the guys coming from the portal, there's just getting a feel for how everybody communicates, reacts, plays. And in the meantime, I do think that he has done a good job. And yet he still has a lot to learn too. Just every position, but especially quarterback. There's so many different situations and outcomes and different looks that you can't practice them all. You try to present them all to them in the meetings and things like that, but they still come up different out there in practice. So you can't get enough of that.
Sticking with Lenore's, there was times last year where he made his own plays, like that big run he had against Clemson. I know it's only been a few days of spring practice, but have you thought about the line you want with Lenore's between him making his own plays and kind of staying with the system?
Yeah, so I just think getting back to the last question as well, the processing that every quarterback has to do every single play. The faster you can process and make good decisions with the football, the less you may have to run with the football. Now as we've seen last year, he's really he's a pretty good runner. So we don't want to take that ability away from him, and we want to enhance that. But we want to do it on our own terms, not because, well, maybe I didn't quite understand the read, or I didn't see this, or I'm late on doing that. Now I have to run. We want him to run because he wants to, not because he has to. I think there were some times where we did both last year, and he did a great job with that. But obviously we want him to have him upright and throwing the football. So he's not going to be a running back where he's carrying it, 25 times a game. So, and that's part of his growing process.
Aside from just making sure someone knows the playbook better, how do you practice and rep processing and getting someone to be a better processor?
Yeah, so you just talk about it constantly. You show looks in the meeting rooms of other quarterbacks doing it, maybe on other teams. You talk about looks of yourself doing it, and maybe it's you're having Lenore's watch himself on this play and just say, hey, well, now if we had this play in that same exact look, what are you doing? And and have as many type of things that you can put them through, walk through stuff out there without the defense and just talk through it. So all those different, meeting rooms, get them on the blackboard, talk about it, ask questions, watch tape doing it, walkthroughs out on the field, practicing out on the field. I think as many times as you can do and say that. Now we want to have we have a set of rules obviously for every play, and because you can't go through all the situations, those rules are set up basically to respond in a positive way when things aren't the way the coach said, or they aren't the way it was drawn up. And so you want him reacting positively along those guidelines, and then you throw in the fact that you have a guy like him who can create on his own. Then that becomes like icing on the cake, so to speak.
Tree Babalade has been a guy who's worked at tackle his first 2 years here. Is he a guy who you can see sliding into one of those guard spots potentially with those three guys you're having to replace?
Could be, yeah. He's gotten off to a good couple days. He's very talented. He's smart. He's got a fast mind, and hopefully we'll continue to see that. Whether or not he's playing out at tackle or if we decide to move him around a little bit at other positions. And that's kind of what's neat, just in general, not just with Tree, but with all these young guys. And you forget about that maybe when you're away from college football, but just how you go back to a year and these guys are still young, and you're saying these guys hadn't quite figured things out. Now Tree has, and he's been around, but just to kind of see him in a whole new year after an off season, all of a sudden it's a fresh start with guy, when he's been here, and all of a sudden, he's maybe on the older side of the curve than he was, last year or whatever. And you hate to say it like, well, the light's going on, but you can kind of see that he's seeing things around him and hey, I got an opportunity here. I want to make the most of it. And it's kind of fun to watch as a coach, where you're seeing guys are even more, not that they weren't last year because it sounds negative, but guys are even more dialed in because of the opportunity presented, the opportunity in front of them.
For a lot of these guys, your playbook is completely new. How much were you able to install things during the bowl week, and how long? Do you expect spring ball to almost be installing your playbook and getting everyone up to speed?
Well, I think I've said this from earlier in the year, and maybe even towards the end of the bowl game, is we're we did a lot of really, really good things last year, and we want to continue to build on those. Now, whether or not it's the same terminology, the same thing, or it's different, those are the little things, but that we'll continue to coach. But I think that, it's going to be a little bit of a combination of a little bit of what in my background, what we've done, and as well as keeping a lot of the good things that we did last year. Each and every year, regardless of, you want to kind of take a look at what you did well, build on it, keep it rolling, find different ways to do it. The stuff that you didn't do well, you want to ask yourself why. What can we do to make it better, tweak it, or do we want to get rid of it and spend our time on the other things? So, we're right in the middle of all of that right now.
Who are some of the other individuals that are similar to Tree with how you're describing maybe the light coming on, so to speak? I know you didn't use those words, but
I think it's hard to say. There's just a lot of guys right now that are I don't know. If I named one, I'd have to name probably 10 or 15 of them. I just think that the competition, basically, kind of across the board on the offensive line, at the, really at the tackle positions, providing depth. We know that Josiah and Kason obviously are back as returning starters, but they still got to compete, and the guys coming in are competing with the guys inside at the guards and the center position. And then you talk about the even our wide receivers, guys that were here, JB and Nick last year compared to or this year now compared to where they were last year, and the opportunity of even more playing time, and running backs with Oscar and Jawan and Matt, all of a sudden, they were watching Rocket last year, and now all of a sudden they're presented with an opportunity to compete against each other and play. And then you got a Sewell coming in. So all that's been very refreshing, and I think we're seeing a lot of guys respond to the competition in a good way.
Coach, you lose Josh Simon at tight end to the NFL, but plenty of other guys back in the tight end room, and adding Jordan Deagle from the transfer portal. Can you assess the competition there, and then also give us some more insight into the role of the tight end in your offense?
Yeah, I think it's first of all, that role is probably flexible, depending on it's our job as coaches to figure out what our guys do well and put them in positions to do that. So we're still early in that process with like you said, Jordan coming in. We've got Brady. We've got Mike Smith, who's obviously not working right now. We've got guys coming in. So I think we're as coaches, more so than anything, we're trying to give them as much as they can take mentally and physically, and then figuring out, hey, this guy does this pretty good. This guy does that pretty well. How can we fit that in with our scheme, and then but that's the beauty of spring balls. You got time to do that, and each and every day you kind of push the envelope a little bit, give them a little bit of a few more things to think about, to look at, to perform, and then go from there. So that is another position too where the competition is going to be good, and it's going to get better when those other guys come in and get healthy.
Coming in, was there any, before you even started with spring practice, was there any major or just tweaks in general you wanted to see from in your offense before anything starts?
No, there's things that we're going to look at over the course of spring ball, but nothing major. Like I said, we want to build on the good and then add and enhance to what we did last year, to what Lenore's provides, and then a lot of it is. After that, it's just finding out what all these new guys, whether or not they're young guys that didn't get a lot of reps last year, or the new guys coming in, see what they can do well. And I think we have to be a little careful. Again, this is probably just my opinion based on being back in college football for basically just a little over a year now. I think you have to be careful because of all the newness and the guys coming in of trying to do too many different things early, like schematically, and then wasting time doing them and then all of a sudden you get to the fall and you don't do them at all because you didn't like them. I'd rather do stuff that we know is kind of going to be our bread and butter stuff for next year, things that we can feel like we can hang our hat on, even though that still can change, but stuff that they've done well, and just really build a foundation in spring ball of the things that we know we're going to carry into the fall, and then that other stuff can get added later on in practice. We're not wasting time kind of looking at a bunch of stuff and then not getting good at the stuff we know we're going to be doing in the fall.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.